It is a beautiful thing to be back. You're right. Yeah. Gator was just giving me crap. Normally it's him who has like the brand new setup every week. This one, I have a new setup and I did not like restore from a backup, and it works. It works. It was like, it was a thing. Almost like I have an idea what I'm doing. Almost.
Yay! Round of applause.
Don't be fooled. So it's interesting. I'll just jump into here. It's funny, we haven't done a live stream in like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and we kept having to punt for whether I had the flu, and I'm still like weirdly recovering from it. It gives me this nice deep voice where I can go really low. But then like traveling, and we're back now, and it just so happened to be a little bit before Thanksgiving, and we started talking about topic, and we're like, you know what? We came up with some good ones, and then we're like, you know what? Let's have a good Hacksgiving. Let's talk about projects, talking about what we're working on right now, some of the things that have happened probably this last year, which are things to be thankful for in the hacking community. I'm going to start off with one which I'm so excited about, and I hope it becomes a thing. DEF CON 30. The announcement went out. DEF CON 30 is homecoming. Which we talked about this, like we were all talking about, like, it's so exciting that DEF CON 30 is going to be, it's homecoming. It's all the hackers coming back together, hanging out. 9 months it's so far off. It's so long off, but I'm pumped about that. Like there's a lot to be excited about that. There's a lot of time between now and then. What was your guys' thought when you saw the announcement?
Oh God! Already?
What announcement?
Yeah, call me informed just now because I have.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited, man. It's going to be DEF CON 30. It's going to be freaking huge, and I'm totally looking forward to seeing it, folks.
It's in the new Caesars Forum too, which means that it'll all be in one place, I believe. Like, it won't be spread out, which has been a nightmare for the past few years.
Yeah, I mean, it was always like it gave you a good workout, like walking between Flamingo, Planet Hollywood, Paris Bally's. Getting lost in between them was just a nightmare.
I left with sore arms last year from carrying that camera everywhere.
You don't have one of those body gimbals?
I'm sure that was the reason. It wasn't anything else.
Definitely wasn't anything else.
I think the one which frustrated me with it is none of the tracks made any sense. You had like track 1 in Bally's, track 2 in Paris, track 3. And I remember there was an event happening where I was up in the hotel room. The event was a timed thing. And they're like, it's going to be in track 1. So I took off nice and early and get down there, and then where's the event? And they're like, oh, it's actually in track 2. And it's like, are you kidding me? And I'm booking it like through the hotel. Like just, again, this is me booking it. Oh gosh.
Let's be real. We were all just happy to be there.
Oh yeah, that's true.
We were like, yeah, this is going to be a pain in the butt, and everyone's forgotten how to do this, and we've lost a gator. But yeah, no, we were all just happy to be there for the most part.
I was looking at Praxius.
His head exploded because they're talking about how DEF CON is at the Link, Flamingo, Harrah's, and Forum this year.
Oh yeah, I see Digital Tinker in chat. Here, I moved the chat so like we can actually see it on screen. Yeah, homecoming, by the way, we'll get back to the theme in a second. Digital Tinker says, it sounds like 4 locations according to Nikita's tweet. Link, Flamingo, Harrah's, and Forum. The Forum is ginormous. I'll be curious what it is.
Tinkle? What the hell did you just say?
Digital Tinkler.
Did I really say Tinkler?
I totally heard Tinkler.
Wow.
Sorry, DT.
Digital. Oh, it's terrible. Digital Tinker. I'm blaming. I'm only on my second cup right now.
I believe from the last time I talked, because I know that they're saying it's at these other hotels, but I think the hotel space is supposed to be used for, and this is not confirmed. This is all secondhand knowledge, speculation, what have you. But I believe the hotel space is supposed to be used for expanded workshops and things like that, and that all the main events will end up being in the Forum, because I mean that if they try and do like the Forum and they put a track in some other hotel, that is going to be an absolute freaking nightmare, and I will hate this.
They've got that sky bridge thingy out in the Vegas sun that you can cross to get to the other side of the street. This is like the whole chicken thing. How many hackers are going to hit by freaking cabs?
Yeah, exactly.
The thing I'm going back to Praxius, who had, by the way, Praxius, something to throw out there. This is your coffee. Thank you for that. I was between the flu and everything else, I had not had a chance to roast. And the coffee I had left was, he sent me monsoon coffee, and this is it. It's very light. It's very good. I like it. It's very fun. But you also asked the question on a homecoming. I think it's an awesome theme. So the art, I actually really like the art this year. And I think it's going to add to some really interesting, like the Black and White Party and other parties doing like a homecoming style dress, which I think is going to be hilarious when you mesh like that weird homecoming awkward style with like, we'll call it cyberpunk, like LED awesomeness. Like, I think it's going to be a really cool theme.
You mean just hackers, right? I mean,
yeah.
So
just pretty much just the hackers.
I need to make a homecoming dress now.
Yes.
Yes.
I didn't know your size, Gulo, so I got you the closest one I could find.
Yeah, we already tried that with Skyria, and that was a lot of duct tape, and it didn't work so well.
I also have video of you getting into the Pikachu dress at the Nerd.
Oh, yes.
So
God,
I have that.
Oh, there's a video of it? I've only seen pictures.
Oh, yeah.
I have to track. I have to track it down. The Soul Hacker. The topic today is Hacksgiving, and it's mostly homecoming, which is what the DEF CON theme is. It's us getting together and talking. It's been 2 weeks, and you're welcome to join. We're going to talk about some of our favorite projects in a short bit here, but we started it off like things we are thankful for, and I am thankful for DEF CON 30 being back in person to come back together. With that, Gator, you were actually talking about some of the projects you have planned over the break.
Oh, yes.
And I say break. So, some of us don't get the break, but you have plans.
Some of us don't get the break. I found out from my my employer, they're like, hey, you're getting ready to get capped on PTO, so you should really take time off. I'm like, great, I'm taking all of next week off. I've still got the keyboard projects that I'm working through with my boys. We've got them completely soldered. Now we're to programming. We found out that, network diagramming and wiring keyboards is interesting when you have to make sure the software matches the hardware. So that's been fun. I'm getting a wicked... Oh, cool. I'm getting a rainbow light onto my face because of the darknet face reflecting in the sunlight. So that's awesome. There's some added color there today. Woo! So that's one of them. I got a brand new laptop for the first time in 10 years. I got the Framework laptop, so I've been going through creating content on that. I'm actually calling from it now with the new docking station, which I am super jazzed about.
Of course, Raspberry Pi. I was going to say, of course, it's a brand new system you're calling into the stream on, but it works. That's a beautiful thing.
I totally wasn't knocking you. I was just saying, it's only dropped once. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. I'm excited to say, you know what? I've got all these Raspberry Pi projects I've been doing for years, and I've never talked about or done the tutorial on them. So I'm doing it. So I've got an entire list of things that I'm going down, and that's just a couple of them. So look for upcoming content, not only on my Twitter feed, but also on the Holon Network site as well.
Nice. What's the Holon Network URL? Just throw it out there in voice. So
it's holon.network.
Ooh, HOLON.network. I like that.
You got it.
It's a beautiful thing. I think one of the things I'm working on over the I'll call it the break. I'm not really taking too much of a break, but I finally so I have a network or a server rack in my house, and for the longest time I've ran a full vSphere vCenter ESXi cluster with vSAN and everything like that. And it's massively complicated, and it's a pain to keep up. So I finally ripped one of the servers out. I put now it's just native Linux Ubuntu on it, and then spun up all my Docker systems on there. But what's really nice is rebuilding them all into one compose file, with each file connecting to the NAS directly, which has been... It's been such a relief where everything now just comes up. And I plan to do... Docker's a beautiful thing. So I think reorganizing that thing and then getting my office a little bit more set up. I did a video on it where now I have everything kind of situated right here. New laptop, kind of getting that spun up. But that's going to be kind of my project, getting things a little bit smoother so I can get videos out a little easier.
Nice.
Gowrie, what do you have going on? Are you actually taking some time off?
No, oh my gosh. I don't think I have ever been this consistently busy. You know, outside of work, like work's keeping me busy, obviously, but actually, I am getting ready to. I have 2 songs that I wrote, and one of them is being released on my Auditory Punishment channel on Sunday at 4:20 p.m. Plays it. No, I'm a follower of this YouTube channel. Alpha Investments, who he's a guy that does investment in Magic the Gathering and other card games and stuff. And I have a link to this, which
drop it in because
I'll drop it into the chat here, and I'll send it to you guys. So this is the first song that I made for him, and there's an acoustic and a remix version. And so on a whim, he was looking for a Wellerman cover to make his own music video. I was like, oh, sure, I'll throw my hat in the ring for this. And he ended up really liking it. He used it multiple times. He actually used it on this like special video that he got a preview card, his first preview card ever from this one company. And he actually used my song for it. And I just found out, I logged into DistroKid. I was like, oh, crap, made like $40 off of this. All right, okay. And it's just been sitting there. Like, it's just been sitting there accruing money. I was like, hey, wait a minute. I need to think about this for a second. If I just pump out like 300 songs and like they get randomly listened to over the course, I could pull in some solid beer money off of this. So I started thinking about, I've been building up like 5 or 6 songs that I've been writing but haven't been recording. And he had another idea. So I was like, hold on, give me like a week and I'll write you a 3-minute song. And so I wrote him a 3-minute song. I recorded it in like one go, took one pass at it, did some quick correction in post. And so I'm going to, that's going to premiere on Sunday, I think, along with his video.
Can he get what? Is it another Wellerman? Is it another like?
No, so this one is actually 100% custom. In terms
really?
Of, like, I wrote the chords, I wrote my own lyrics to this, and it's actually I call it a reskin because it is a reskin of one of my own songs, which I am getting ready to record. So I took the basic chord structure and I rewrote the lyrics. But I'm going to get ready to record the actual song. And the actual song is called Boxy Red Car, and it's about porch pirates. And have you ever wondered, like porch pirates out there are stealing boxes. They don't know what's in them. Anything could be in them. Anything from like 10 gallons of lube or an expensive purse. Or, like, you just don't know what's going to be
actually,
inside.
those are the only 2 options. It's only one of those 2 things.
Right. Well, no, there could be a mail order bride in there, right? So I have a whole song that's just about this character who, what it must be like to trot through the town and steal boxes. And so I'm going to get ready. So that's the song that I took and I reskinned for him. But it's all me and my bandmates' own work. So I think we're going to record that. And I think the plan is probably come January, maybe February, I want to drop a 6-song EP where it's called the Rudy EP, which is all the songs I made for Rudy at Alpha Investments, and then get like 10 hard versions of it made and like sign them, and then maybe try and mint an NFT just for memes. Yeah. So
okay, we made it 14 minutes into the podcast before somebody mentioned cryptocurrency or NFT. Yeah. Well done.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but this is purely in a meme sense. Like, I don't really care about making the money off of this. Like, I made $40 over the course of 5 months. Like, I'm not gonna make a living at this, right?
The kicker though, it's like it's so good. I remember when you sent it to me. It's just the concept that you can use like Alpha Investment was like Magic the Gathering, like investment, like using it as an investment vehicle, which is just like when I had never heard of it. You sent me the song to kind of listen to and give thoughts on, which I was like, I have no thoughts. It's so good.
No, you gave me a few pieces of feedback. Like, you have some pretty good solid sound gear over there. So you're like, there's this click right in the beginning, and I couldn't hear it. And
but I mean,
yeah,
I was just, it's so good. And I had never thought of like Magic the Gathering as an investment vehicle, which I think is hilarious. But the funniest part is you did a remix, but I'm expecting like no one's going to listen to it, but people are going to listen to it on his channel. Yet your video has like 4,000, 10,000 views. It's so good. If you haven't listened to it, even if you don't like Magic the Gathering or something, it's just really funny to listen to. It was very clever lyrics on your part. How about you, Gula? What are you up to?
Sleeping.
Just catching up on sleep.
I've been 5 months crunching, almost 6 months now of 100-hour weeks for ever at all of the everythings that I do. So I'm actually now starting to catch up on sleep, and I'm back down to my standard 50-hour work week. So I'm slowly coming out of my box. Last night, though, I stayed up till about 2 a.m. I'm reading and learning about photobiomodulation now. So I need to go find my old Chinese. I tried to, before the pandemic, I was trying to order some Chinese washing machines, because the parts that I needed from those washing machines were far cheaper for me to buy the whole washing machine than it was for me to buy the parts that I actually needed. So I need to go find those again, because those got canceled during the pandemic. And then I can start building weird and crazy things again.
I think
all for myself.
You said you started researching, what was it?
Photobiomodulation. It's using near infrared. So around the 900 to 1200 nanometer range of light to excite ATP, which is the energy, the proteins that your body, or it's ATP is the energy that the fuel that your body uses to create proteins. And people are using it for like hair growth. They're using it to heal wounds. It's kind of a medical thing. And I'm already playing in that light spectrum because of all the VR stuff that I do. So I'm like, I wonder if I can dual purpose some of this stuff. And then I'm getting into, like, the Chinese washing machines use, they don't use agitation. They use transducers to create micromodulations and everything. Basically, it vibrates really, really, really fast. So I'm curious if I can also excite cells using the same technology, mixing the lights and the vibrations, and see if I can find frequencies to do different things to, bodies. I'm probably going to end up testing on myself, but I should probably go buy some rats first.
So you excite my cells. Let me just leave that there.
So you're making a metaverse healing machine, and as a bonus, it vibrates?
The vibrations are there. They're micro vibrations. So they're really, really fast. In theory, you won't be able to feel them, but I need to play with them to figure out. And yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to heal things. I don't know if I'm going to be able to grow things. I have some plans where I'm also mixing different frequencies together to try to deconstruct things on a molecular level. Basically, I'm trying to do the same thing as a centrifuge without actually spinning things, but I have a little ways to go on that.
I see everyone on video like slowly shaking their head at every one of the opportunities to speak in, just to jump in here.
I'm leaving them wide open for you guys. Come on.
It's too easy. It's no fun. It's too easy.
Oh, man. I think the other thing which is coming up when we've been doing these streams and talking about projects and what we're working on is I started thinking about like what are some of the interesting items I've either bought over the years or things that have just brought me weird joy as far as my office goes. And I think that's one of those other ones I want to touch on is recently having a nice keyboard is a beautiful thing. Like I moved over to like a really obnoxiously like blue switch clicky keyboard, like I think it's a WASD keyboard. Friday had recommended it to me. It's stupidly clicky. But has there been things you've bought over this past year which you've gone like this is something, and maybe that's something I'm thankful for. Maybe that's a rich term. But it's something that you've been buying for your office where you're like, this was a good thing to buy. Seems appropriate with the holiday.
Gulo's hat.
It is kind of amazing. It's a beautiful thing.
Awesome. Rainbow narwhal, baby.
What have I bought recently? I mean, not for my office, but we just bought a patio set with a fire pit in it, and yeah, the first time we used that, we were like, okay, this didn't cost that much, but now I feel like I'm living in a little bit of luxury, and it was nice to like sit outside while it was like 45, 50 degrees, and like sit there with a cup of coffee or an Irish coffee in my case, and just like enjoy. It was, yeah, I think that's been my most recent one. Like that's been nice. We've been happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of self-care there.
It's funny. I did that video on, I even laughed at it afterwards a little bit. I'm like, you know, what my idea of self-love. And I did the video, and if anyone wants to watch it, but it was talking about like, the way I do self-love is usually accomplishing things. Like, it's not like, okay, I'm going to do a spa day. I'm going to go accomplish something which is going to make my future self happier. But I laughed because in the video I even referenced, I'm like, self-love is not buying a brand new MacBook Pro as I waited on mine to arrive. And it's not buying new things. I canceled it twice. And actually this one's going back because I'm getting one with 2 terabytes instead. But it was kind of fun. I think for core of me, like self-love is important, but for me, I know a lot of it goes to accomplishment, but every once in a while, it's good just to like buy something like blatantly, like just to enjoy it. Gator, what about you?
So I'll tell you, man, I've been working on a certification for a little while now, and since our last time getting together, finally accomplished it. Only took 7 months, 44 hours of testing time, so I have now got my RHCE, which I am thrilled. Now I'm going on to bigger and better things. So that's said and done. So when you're talking about accomplishing something, man, that was a huge weight off my back. I am so happy to have that accomplished. Now I actually know cancelable. At least in the way the test asked it to. But that's a whole nother story for another day because the test was broken. Woo! It's fixed now. Thank God.
You had told me about that. Like the actual test you had taken numerous times had a flaw in it that no one had acknowledged.
Yep. So after 7 months of trying 11 tests, 10 tests all in the same, they had updated it twice in the month I took off, and then at that point, I was able to go take the test again and passed. So as long as you're grabbing the latest and greatest, you're going to be fine. But that was a big deal for me to finally get that accomplished. I got a couple other folks that I used to work with now joining me at my work, which I'm super excited about. So accomplishing different things and, you know, making those lists, going through and getting things checked off. So like there's a video from Peter McKinnon talking about going and making sure that you're still staying creative. So like literally getting a notebook and writing down things. And they're like 8 important things. Going into that process and actually saying, hey, this is what I want to accomplish today, and making those small steps, the whole SMART goals and such, has really helped me actually accomplish things versus, oh, I'll get to it. No. Give me a list. I'm going to go through and check it off. And I've been a lot more productive going through and doing that since then. And now that I'm coming up on my PTO, I'm like, okay, what are the things I haven't got to go through and accomplish during regular time? So, yeah, the list is growing. I've got 4 projects sitting over here on my desk, and I'm like, that's getting accomplished today. It's amazing. Definitely enjoying it. And I would say the thing that I've not bought a brand new laptop in over 10 years. So seeing the framework come out, being able to go through and afford it at $750, I was able to get bonus money for bringing on a buddy, which was awesome. So it's not extra money out of my pocket. And yeah, I'm super jazzed, man. This is an exciting time to be living. All the craziness that's going on. I'm just thankful that I'm healthy, my family's healthy, and I'm here back with y'all talking to my hacker family.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is.
I actually did buy something for me Most of the stuff that I buy is work related or project related, and most of my projects, granted, are just me learning how to do things. But generally, I pass them on to others, and then they take my ideas and they make crap tons of money and say, "Yeah, we never heard of that Gulo guy before." But I did go out and I bought a Remarkable, which is
How do you like it?
stupid expensive. I absolutely love it. It's basically a dumbed down iPad that costs way more money, but it feels like writing on paper. So
And it's
it's
e-ink, right?
it's e-ink. All it is it's a writing tablet. It has its pen. You write down on it. It actually feels like it's writing on paper. It has no other features, no other functionality. I mean, it's way more pricey. It's like double or triple the price of an iPad, but I can draw on it. I can write on it. I can create lists. I'm programming since I don't want to use our cloud because I have trust issues. I'm currently writing my own OCR for it so that I can translate all of my notes back into text so that I can just sync everything back and forth.
Meanwhile,
And-
elsewhere, Gulo's like, I'm not a software developer. Meanwhile,
Shut up.
I'm writing my own OCR. You're so full of it, Gulo.
I hate programming. It's the devil.
Yeah.
Unless it's
mean,
JavaScript. We
Computers
all
are
love
a mistake.
JavaScript here.
Oh, get out.
Computers were a
JavaScript's the
mistake.
best.
Return to monkey.
I mean, I think one of the things I've been doing recently within the programming space has been it's been a beautiful thing using like serverless to deploy everything. I get the sickness where it comes to like Ansible and a lot of these other ones where it's just like a push a button and everything gets deployed. Like whether it's Ansible or serverless or any one of these things, CloudFormation, there's something beautiful about going, okay, I'm going to spin this up and I'm going to spin up a bunch of systems. I think the most interesting one I did recently though, it was there was an attack we found for brute forcing like an 8-character like one-time password. It was like a 15. It was only valid for 15 minutes, but the vulnerability let you kind of hit it like you could. There was no rate limiting, and you'd hit the verification endpoint numerous times. But we only had 15 minutes to hit like a billion attempts. So I wrote it in serverless to spin up Lambda functions, which each had like 1,000 attempts each because they only had to run like 2 minutes. So we spun up like, I think it was like 3,000 Lambda functions at a time, and it was all done with serverless. You just spun them up, ran it, and it only ended up costing like $1 to hit like a billion attempts within 3 minutes. It was awesome. So serverless or Ansible, like those are some beautiful things. Ansible's not capable of doing, is it able to do like AWS deploying Lambdas and whatnot?
Yes.
I'm assuming it's able to do everything. Is it just a competitor to serverless practically?
So Ansible, actually Gator can probably talk about it better, but I use Terraform and Ansible and Packer. I deploy. So in one of my jobs, I'm in charge of installing every piece of software on every system, imaging. So I have my project that completed like 3 weeks ago is now successfully in the wild and production, and I control every file, piece of software, operating system, cloud design across my entire company. So we're looking at hundreds of machines that I can make a line level file change on, push it through the pipeline, and it gets auto deployed to anything, anywhere in the world.
I have a question.
Dude.
I have a question. Does your employer know who they employ?
No. They have no clue. They've got me doing the most menial tasks.
No.
I
just
have
like
no idea.
the idea of Gulo having that level of access is both expected and terrifying.
I agree.
I'm the only one on my team. I'm the only one doing this. No one actually understands what I do, so they have to trust me.
I was going to bring this up because I've been finding this more and more fascinating because I pretty much don't use any of the tools that you guys just spun off. I've never in my life used like Kubernetes or Ansible or serverless is a new one. I've never heard that phrase. I didn't know that was a thing. Like my whole life, I'm right now, like I find this fascinating because I'm being exposed to stuff, but it's not stuff I'm using in my day-to-day life. And it just reminds me of how like it's literally impossible for someone to know all of these things, right? Like I work with people who use them on a day-to-day basis, but my whole job is like, hey, what are you trying to do? I'm going to develop the APIs you need to do that. And then they use that along with those other tools to accomplish quote unquote real work. And it's just fascinating to me, like that, it's fascinating to me that we're technically considered to be within the same profession in some regards.
I think what's like we were talking about this yesterday because we're actually looking to hire a few people, and we started talking about like salaries internally, like, and we were saying like the ranges are crazy. It's like, okay, well,
Right?
this person's somewhere between $40,000 and $350,000. Like pen testers, they're somewhere in that range. And what you realize is like pen testing itself, or just like security testing, offensive. I'm going to try and break X. We'll just say pen testing falls into any person who is hired to try and break something, like general term. But you go from web, network, industrial control systems, API, physical, like there's physical hardware. If we ever get Bunny on here, there's like physical. This is like what's baffling, and this is so far out of mine, is that you can have a physical system which has physical defenses, which will break the chip, like essentially break functionality on the chip if you try and open it. Like that is but every one of those are all considered pen testers, but they have massively different skill sets. You go to like reverse engineering bug hunting, finding, 0 days in iOS, which go for like $1.5 million if you find one and sell it to like any of these third-party sites, versus like you find cross-site scripting and like a normal web app, it's like no one cares. So it is kind of crazy when Gowry's talking about that. Yeah, half the things you guys talk about, you think like what we would know about it, but you don't need to.
Right. And that's why we always build up our hacker family as well, to where we can say, hey, I know somebody else who's an expert in this, or that has actually worked with this before. Can I ask you a couple of questions? And then we're, again, learning something new or going to somebody else who has more expertise in that field.
I feel
I am thankful for teamwork because it makes the dream work.
Absolutely. Hashtag plus plus.
This is the hacker family, though. It's so a lot of things that I talk about. So I can talk about Ansible with Gator. I can talk about pen testing in crypto challenges with Silk, and Gowry and I just light shit on fire. And that's all well and good. It's the hacker family is you being really excited about something, and then other people will be drawn towards you because you're so excited about it, and then they want to learn. They will talk about it. They will help you with it, and it doesn't matter what it's in. We all cover a huge gambit of things. I play in physics. I play in engineering. I play in medical. I do all kinds of stupid things, and there's always somebody at, say, DEF CON or in any of the hacker spaces that I attend that gets excited about those things. And we'll sit down and we'll mad scientist something together, try building it, coming up with different ideas, and then the world ends. It's great.
I think oftentimes, too, it's just figuring things out. Like, it is not as much now, but I feel like when I was really doing a lot of the testing, it was like 30-40% of the time you're like, I've never come across this, but I will figure it out. Maybe not that much, but like again, like a chunk of your job is just figuring it out. And I think I saw there was a picture of someone who I have no idea anything mechanical, like in a car or whatnot. I go back to like the Sergeant Bilko thing where it's like, sir, do you know anything about cars? No. Well, you see that round thing? It's impinging on that other thing with the spot. But there was a picture of a engine block, and someone said paint the block, and the junior engineer actually like painted the block. I don't know what the term actually means, but they said there was two problems. One, the person who told him to do it made the mistake of assuming he knew how to do it, but he made the bigger mistake of not saying, I don't know how to do this. So I think what's interesting within a job is you kind of have to have this balance of going, I'll figure this out on my own, and I'm going to acknowledge I don't know how to do this and find someone who does. And it's I think that's the trick, is knowing when do I need to ask for help versus when do I need to keep bashing my face against the keyboard to figure it out.
There's two types of techs in the world. They're the techs that call other techs to solve problems, and they're the techs that solve problems.
Now, with that being said, to Gulo's point, where show your work, right? Am I going down the right path? There have been times I've reached out to Gulo saying, "Hey, I've done this, and this. Here's my wall. What am I missing? Should I go down this path because this is what I'm seeing? Or should I go down that path?" But other than that, what Gulo was saying, I'll hand it back to you, bud.
Yeah, it's so. When I first started, I called other people. I called seniors. I called whoever. And this was 20 some odd years ago because I'm old as dirt now. But now, when I join a company, one of the things I ask during interviews is, hey, is there someone that I can learn from? Is there someone that can mentor me in some technology or something that I don't already know how to do? I want to learn. I want to grow my knowledge. I don't care what it's in. And for the past 15 years, the answer's been no. I've been the top of the food chain. It comes back to, at the companies that I work at, if I can't solve it, then it doesn't get solved. There's no one else. There's no one to call. I'm literally the last line of defense, and it's incredibly stressful. But there are tons of things that I don't know how to do, and I wonder if I can break this. I wonder if I can fix this. I wonder how this works. And it's just tearing things apart to the smallest common denominator. If I had to paint a block, okay, I know how to paint a block, but if I had to paint a block, I would look at it and be like, what parts inside of this move that I should not touch because there's friction going on versus what parts can I just look at that are pretty? And then I would just
dump the paint on and see what happens.
Bucket after bucket after bucket.
It's funny. I was, when I actually saw that picture, like where the whole engine's painted, I'm thinking to myself, I know there's something wrong with that, but I don't actually know what the actual term meant. I have no idea. I think it is one of those things though, like oftentimes you're trying to figure out like what when you need to dig into it. But the thing I find so funny, it was so rich, is like Gowrie is one of the smartest, especially on the level he works on and the depth, we'll say like assembly and that level of language, probably one of the smartest reverse engineers like I've met. And but like, yeah, what's so funny about that is it's so rich when I hear he's like, oh yeah, but I don't know any of these, well, I'm going to consider basic things in my field. It shows the sheer breadth of the topic. There's so much that you have to learn and don't know.
You don't know what you don't know, and you just have to dive into it.
How do I don't know what I not know what I don't know? Do I know that?
That's why you dive into it. It's a straight swan dive face plant into the concrete. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah. That's called going full Scorpion.
It's when I started building like heads-up displays for my vehicles, and I was trying to build one for motorcycle helmets, and I no longer wanted to have a dash that had all of my dials and stuff on it because that was all portrayed as something that was close to me. So my eyes would have to adjust. The focal length of my eyes would have to adjust to see that. And then when I looked out at the road, my eyes would have to adjust again. So I was playing with building a heads-up display across my windshield so that everything was there at the same distance my eyes were already looking. The issue I ran into was I suck at optics. Like, really, really bad. They're playing with lenses is very, very hard. And the more that I learned to try to solve the problem, the more frustrated I got because I didn't have any clue what I was doing, and I didn't want to become an optometrist and go to school for like 6.5 years to learn all that stuff, even though I was starting to because I really wanted to build my thing. But that's just my own OCD. So I dove into it. I realized I couldn't do it. I took a job so I could learn how to do it, and then I never learned from that job because all of those people quit, and they suck.
I
Guys are
like
missing
talking about starting things that I've been wanting to do for a while. I've always wanted to make my own vocoder and be able to make like I start with it by saying like a Daft Punk helmet, but it's not quite
Mhm.
accurate. I want the ability of this helmet to be a self-sustained vocoder, but then also have it be able to split open so I can sing normally and then have it go between the two effects. There's
Nice.
just so much there to learn because I don't do any level of physical engineering whatsoever. And there's just so many, like I started designing it and I started to realize like the mandible effect of like, oh crap, like it has to come out and then go over because you can't just have it like slide open unless you have significantly more gearboxes inside. So you have to have a swinging hinge and everything. Like I started going down that path and the depth. It made me really like as I started designing, it made me really appreciate like mechanical engineers and all of the creativity that goes into that. People get this idea that engineering in general is not creative, and it's so wrong. There's so
You're
many
building it out of
complicated
Legos, right?
problems. Yeah, yes, building
There
it out of
was-
Lego. Correct.
I
There
think
was a
They're going Gulo.
There was a box I was building. It was a 10 foot by 10 foot by 10 foot cube, and it was for VR. And I had a very specific type of film that would only adhere to glass. And the problem is when you start dealing with that size of glass, you're looking at like 800 pounds. So 800 to 1,000 pounds worth of in one sheet of glass. And I was designing the box. I was the only engineer working on it. I was designing the film. I was designing the VR. I was doing everything inside of that box. When I was building it, I had all these people are like, dude, it's just a box. Just build the box and move on. Just build the box and move on. I had leadership telling me to do the same thing. And I went back to them. I said, this is an 800 pound sheet of glass. If this box fails, it's going to crush a kid in your arcade. And then they're like, oh, wait, never mind. No. You design the box. We shouldn't be killing children in our arcades. That's bad.
Where do you even source glass of that size? Like I get that they have that for like buildings and stuff, but like if I just decide that I want a sheet of glass of that size, where do you source it from? Like who do you call?
I was going to say, wait a second. You're asking this question when you had the quest of going through and finding a urinal cake. How did you go through and find that urinal cake, Gallery?
Very, very desperately.
Very.
Right.
I mean, this is the thing which cracks me up about this too is I'm hearing this story about the glass and realize. So I built a table, dining room table. I need to do a picture of which I can show, but I built a dining room table, big, huge ash tree. Went into big slabs, dried it out, but the legs I decided to do steel, and I had never done CAD or plasma cutting or any of that before. So I had learned it all, and it was a blast. But when I went to purchase the steel, I called a sourcing company. I said, here's what I want. I need like 2 sheets. I need like 6 different bands, which are like, 6 inches wide. And they asked me, what's the thickness that you want? I'm like, okay, I don't know, thickness, like, I don't know, like 1/4 inch. Like I'm thinking about like what it would look like in the table. My 1/4 inch will be nice and thick and it'll be great. What I didn't ever think, and the guy didn't question it because they're a big steel producer. When these things arrived, each sheet had to have been about 400 pounds because it was like 6 foot by 6 foot of 1/4 inch steel. And I'm looking at these things. I couldn't move them. Luckily, I got them into a hacker space. I couldn't lift them. We needed a forklift to put them on the plasma cutter. But this is just one of those things where it's like, this is why you need probably a mentor at one time to say, here's how you do these things. But yeah, it was 1/4 inch steel. And I just remember they look great, but each leg on my table right now is probably 200 pounds now that all the pieces are cut out and whatnot. So you can't move it. It's great. I didn't even bother screwing part. Like it has these huge bolts and it looks amazing. But like this is one of those things that just happens in a wind, just a bubble somewhere on sourcing the glass.
Good video. This is make a good video. Break down how you made your table and the and the
like,
silliness.
It was just like At one point too, I put it on the plasma cutter, and none of us in the entire hackerspace, like this place was a new place trying to figure out how to be a hackerspace. The plasma torch, I don't know enough about some of this machinery to know like whether or not it should be doing this, but the entire plasma torch was not attached, like it's magneted into the thing. And my guess is it's so if it's cutting and the tip gets caught, like it doesn't break the tip, it just falls off. But there was supposed to probably be an emergency disconnect, like after it comes off the thing, which it would turn off. Yeah, it didn't happen because the table wasn't level. So at one point it's cutting and the plasma torch comes off. And the thing's just like sparking, and it was
no.
And I'm thinking I have like no idea, so I grab the power cable and rip it out. Like so many safety concerns here, which probably require you not being the one who sets up the play. Either way, that I'm more than happy to do a video on that. I think it would be good. Well, something that Gowrie mentioned though too earlier, talking about building this mask out. How nice open source has become on GitHub. I noticed this twice this past week. Like you can legitimately search anything GitHub. Like I was looking for a way of making temporary links using a Dynamo database and blah 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 on AWS, and I'm like AWS Dynamo GitHub, and it was temporary links, and there's like 50 projects of people who have done it. It's a beautiful thing,
right?
So,
Talking about open source on that side of the house, I'm very curious to see how things are going to go with the whole metaverse and how much of that is going to be open source and how many people are going to be jumping into that versus just having the corporations jump in and say, hey, we own everything, just like in Snow Crash and every other dystopian book and game.
You say that, but like I was just about to say, like, you're talking specifically GitHub, right? Silk?
I was talking about GitHub. I don't know anything about the whole metaverse.
GitHub's owned by Microsoft now, right?
Now,
Microsoft bought GitHub, and everyone was worried about that. And so far, seems fine. Seems like they've been doing some legitimate upgrades, in my opinion.
I agree, but I see Gator cringing over there.
So, what about the whole thing that they're scraping everybody's code and not doing the licensing correctly when you're starting to write it? Give me a second. Let me find this silly thing that it's called.
I'm going to argue that, though. If they're scraping code, but at the same time, they probably should be scraping code because the amount of like AWS security keys I've found in GitHub is just remarkable.
To be blunt, like I did just a small amount of research on GitHub. Like I found it astonishing. I trolled through GitHub metadata and pulled down like every single thing I could get my hands on. I'm talking like 1 million different repos at one point. And then I went through the background of the email addresses and all the personal information of everyone and this was all easily doable. Like I just went through the top like million GitHub things. And it's all public information. And I was amazed at like, if you look at the number of commits that are coming from like garbage email addresses or things that don't match up. And I'm sitting here wondering to myself, I'm like, some of the commits that I pulled up that way was just like, did this actually come from the person that, was claiming to come from? And then because at the time I was looking at like, is it possible to impersonate somebody on GitHub in a reasonable way in a rather busy repo and get stuff through without really anybody noticing? And I was just like, I didn't really finish that research, but I found it to be a rather interesting question. And I found some leads that I thought were rather interesting. Nothing in major repos like Linux, but small things in other busy repos where I'm just like, that looks incredibly suspect. Who merged that?
Well, like NPM, I mean, right?
Well, we've talked about this before. The sheer amount of third-party packages, like sure, Linux doesn't have it, but the kernel dependency of a dependency of a dependency of a dependency, like we have to trust that developer to make sure that they're merging in the appropriate things and it doesn't bubble up to the surface. But to answer your question, yeah, it happens. It happens remarkably frequently. So frequently, it's not even reported on. Because it's just it's remarkable. Oh goodness, I still laugh about the is odd. Gator.
So there's obviously the XKCD comment on how one piece of package that everything else is being supported on is maintained by one Nebraskan farmer, right? And we've talked about that in the past. The reality is that NPM is what Gulo was saying as well. The other thing that I was talking about before was the GitHub Copilot autocoder. was snagging and merging different other things from, like what you were saying. You could absolutely go out there and find different secrets on GitHub. Some places are going through and grabbing entire blocks of code. There was examples of like literally Doom being just auto-suggested inside of where people are going through and writing code. So there was a lot of people who did move over from GitHub over to GitLab. But honestly, I'm still talking about just like the open web, right? If we're able to go through and see somebody else's project, and if it's like 90 or even 70% of what we need to do for our project,
and he's gone.
I
I wanted to say
censored.
he back talked with Microsoft one too many times and just got
they
tipped
shut off his 10 Gs.
He's had connection issues this whole time. But I again, since he's not here, GitHub is a beautiful thing, mainly because just the sheer amount of open source, everything. And the funniest part is it's licensed all over the place. Amazon just killed his Twitch. That's exactly what happened, Praxius.
So what I usually do is, and I know you guys are going to argue this to some extent, of if I go on to GitHub and I pull down a lot of code, but I pretty much always go through and pull out the snippets of code that I need to do what I need it to do. I almost never pull down a full repo and use that repo. The main reason is generally I'm the only one doing what it is that I'm doing. And because of that, if I don't understand how it works, I can't fix it. So I'm not necessarily plagiarizing code. When I'm coding and I'm stealing somebody's code, I put their information inside there, pulled from this repo, from this person, blah, 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 and comments. But I pretty much, I know there's dependencies that I have to pay attention to, and I know that's a deep rabbit hole, but if I'm pulling down an Ansible or a Docker or whatever it is that I'm pulling down, I pull out the chunks that I need because I don't want to bloat my code with every possible scenario that they're having to think of.
I think it kind of like, there's some open questions here.
Trashing your rights, man.
Do you want to pick up where you left off?
No, go ahead. The time is gone.
Are you afraid of Bill Gates shutting off your 10G again?
You know what? I don't use it anyway, so I'll just keep on self-hosting, damn it. And nobody will see my projects.
No, I use GitHub for a handful of things. Not a whole lot of things. I have one. We were talking about BGP a few weeks back. I have my BGP project on there. I got to go back to Northeastern and see if they're still torturing their students with that and whether or not I can actually open source it, because it's in a private repo right now, and I don't want to enable people to just cheat on classwork. But it would be nice to open source it.
Nice.
I think the thing I've noticed is like I do a lot in private repos on GitHub specifically, because here's the thing: is almost every like AWS, almost every pipeline right now integrates within private repos. So you can just say just pull it, like Netlify, any of these things. Like the website I spun up is in a private repo where Netlify just picks it up and compiles it. So like until like other ones catch up, I'm not sure if I'm gonna. I don't see any reason to move over. Also, like with Microsoft doing it, the actions are fantastic. Like the GitHub actions, which you can kick off. You can go up. I need static code analysis. Drag, drop. Oh, I also need. I want to do code scanning. Drag, drop. I want to do deployment testing. Drag, drop. And you can just start dragging all the tests right into it.
I mean,
so this is pretty awesome. Go ahead, and then I'll go after you.
I was gonna say, like, this is one of the things that, like, you know, Apple gets touted for a lot of things here and there, and they get negative PR on their inability to fix their stuff and stuff like that. But anyone who's been watching Microsoft for a decade acquire and integrate all of these tools, it's an amazing story. Like, yeah, I have issues with one corporation owning all of the things and all of those things, and we can have that. Well, we can have that debate, and I think Facebook's evil. But you know, but I have to say, like, Microsoft has done a lot of really amazing things for development environments as a whole. Like, Visual Studio is still like the premier development environment, in my opinion.
VS Code is amazing.
Yes.
VS Code, a lot of people love, man. And it's an amazing, because they used to be so toxic against Linux, and then it's like whole Microsoft hearts Linux now. And they've been doing a lot to promote that. I am still leery, but at the same time optimistic, because you know what? They've been doing a lot for it. You would have never got WSL on there before with the previous people running it. So WSL, them going through and literally putting Chrome, or I'm sorry, Edge reskinned on Mac, Windows, and Linux. They are doing so many different things to make sure it is open. It's interesting to see.
Have you seen on the WSL side the newest one, which I think I'm pegged to now? Like this is the last update I'm going to get until I update my hardware because reasons. Anyway, yeah, the newest one you can just download directly from the Windows Store and start using GUI applications.
You can use GUI applications.
Yes, you can use GUI applications.
But by the way,
seriously, like
you go GUI and
awesome.
GIF or GIF. I found out I've used GIF. I believe it's GIF, but I had to use GIF today because I asked my wife. She goes, I'm bringing the gift to the birthday party. And I go, yeah, I just sent a gift to my mom for her birthday. And she goes, what do you mean with the gifts right here? I go, no, GIF. She's like, the GIF. She's like, oh, okay. I'm like,
GIF is the peanut butter.
I was gonna say you sent her peanut butter.
Crunchy or smooth is the real question.
with Microsoft, one thing that Microsoft's done is Azure. I don't personally use Azure. Some of the companies I work with do use Azure for things. But one thing that Azure did that AWS has not done or Amazon has not done, all of the tools for learning, all of their books, videos, training, everything on Azure is free. You can go learn whatever it is that you want to learn and build on Azure for free from Microsoft because they want you to use their product. And the fact that they're doing that is freaking amazing. I wish the other cloud providers would actually follow suit because then you could sit down, learn the technology to use the technology rather than having to spend money to figure out if that technology is the right technology that you want to use. And it's a whole other rabbit hole.
That's one of the reasons why I think they're going to have long-term success in that area.
I think the other thing they did, though, is like with Azure, everything integrates in Active Directory. Like where AWS, everything had to do IAM and you have to do all the policies. We're here now, all the companies which rely on their Microsoft shops, it's easier for them to just lift and shift stuff up to Azure.
I think, are you biased here? Because doesn't that make things easier for you?
I like it. It most definitely does. I prefer AWS, but I test in Azure a remarkable amount, and because Active Directory weaknesses exist in Azure because it's a whole nother. All right, I'm gonna say one thing here. For the life of me, I don't understand why everyone in all of Active Directory can go to portal.azure.com and get a full listing of everything, and there's no way to turn it off. There is zero way to stop, if you're in Office 365, stop any one of your employees going to portal.azure.com and getting the full listing of every user and their network login. And you can stop it from a graphical interface perspective, but they can still access from the API, and there's no way of turning it off.
But that's how Active Directory works anyways. That's how LDAP works. You need to be able to pull a list of everything to do a comparison before you can pull Kerberos tokens back and then do the verification of authentication.
Which
Active
means,
Directory.
Yeah, I was going to say, which means any user can pull an entire Bloodhound pull and know of every active session, every system, every node, every active session, knowing the high priority target. There's an issue
so
here.
You're just creating a good network map, Silk.
Oh my gosh. The one thing I wanted to mention with the app, wasn't that necessarily Apple versus Google, or Apple versus Microsoft, something that Microsoft I feel has started doing. For the longest time, Microsoft was the trailblazer. They'd come out with a new technology and they'd be the first one to go in here with it. Where Apple they weren't the first MP3 player. Like Zune, Microsoft said, we're going to trailblaze right into this. Apple sat back, watched the industry, learned the industry, and then kind of dominated in it. Where I think Microsoft, I'm going to let Gator back in here. I know, his computer's just nailing it. Where I think Microsoft now is taking the Apple stance a little bit, and they're watching it, they're learning it, and then they're bettering their products. And the example I give is like this idea of like Notion or ClickUp or like these project management solutions, which are like drag and drop database creators. They're coming out with Microsoft Loop. They saw what their success. I'm super stoked for Microsoft Loop, but they saw what they were having success in the industry, and now they're duplicating that. With that though, I think we're getting to that point. I know we have a little bit of a hard stop. This was all over the place, but I'm super excited that we were able to spend it with you guys. Thank you for joining. With that, we'll go ahead. We'll do a loop. We're back though. We're going to be back next week. We're back on a normal schedule, which I'm excited about at least. But Gator.
Yeah. Are you kidding? I missed you guys. Missed your faces. Being able to see you on the weekends, man. It's like a mini DEF CON each weekend. So go create something new this weekend, folks. Document it. Share it with somebody. Whether you do it on GitHub, GitLab, Twitter, whatever, man. Go enjoy it. And go love your hacker family.
Go. If you're talking right now, Gowrie, we can't hear a word you're saying. It's probably because you're muted.
I'm muted. I muted myself. Damn it. I said, come join me for a little auditory punishment on Sunday at 420 Blaze It. I'll be dropping some more music over the next couple of months. It should be fun.
Gulo, what do you have for us?
So, and I just kind of posted this in one of the chats. We do projects and we build things that we could easily go out and buy, because then the era of hackers that we're in right now is we build exactly what we want to the specs that we want them to be, rather than going out to purchase a product that is the specs and design of what someone thinks that we should have. I design my lights to be exactly the way that I want them to be, to work how I want them to be. I could easily go out and purchase any of a dozen solutions, but they all lack something specific that I want to happen. So I generally build the things that I want to work the way that I want them to work, because I am very, very anal like that.
A caveat to that, don't build your own vaccines. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, there's so much. I'm not going to say any of that thing, but there's so many stupid people in this world. I'll just throw it out there. And you can take that however you want, which is great. With that, thank you for joining us. We're going to be back. I'm so happy we got to spend this time together with you. Happy Hacksgiving. And as always, hack on.